Hey everyone, it's your favorite host, Marcus Norman of Gentleman Style Podcast Show. And today, I've been looking forward to this interview for weeks, this conversation. This man is absolutely phenomenal, incredible, and he is changing the world, starting in Texas, but expanding and growing in so many different words. And now he speaks and coaches and mentors to the problems that we're dealing with in the mental health space. And this man, I want to say, is the focal point of what we need in our communities, in our lives. And he is clearing a path and showing the way and leading. And he speaks to this and he coaches to this, and he's been mentoring to this and touching lives and changing impact on families, and more importantly, our teens and children, by helping them cope with the difficulties that we've been facing, that we've been seeing in the world today. And so I could not hold this man back any way possible. This man is too huge to keep backstage. So help me welcome to the stage the incredible Mr. Austin Davis. Welcome to the Gentleman Style Podcast Show, sir. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Davis. How are you?
I'm fantastic, man. Thank you so much for that introduction, and thank you for having me. Excited.
It's a true pleasure, sir. You are necessary, and you are changing the world in a huge way, in an impactful way. And before we dive into the uniqueness of your story and what you're doing to create the change that you want to see in the world, when did it hit you? When did you notice that you had a gift to offer the world and serve in the mental health space? When did it hit you? When did you get the bug?
Oh, when I got so I recount this often, I was probably 12 years old. I remember sitting on the curb and the neighbor is like just pouring her heart out to me. I'm 12-year-old. She's probably 40 at the time or something. And just, I recount that having all the skills, and I was like, that thing has been with me for a long, long time of people engaging and, just pouring their heart out to me. And so those revelations have since developed as life has gone on. So
dealing with people, and thank you for that. I told y'all, a heart of pure gold. Dealing with people is not an easy thing, especially when you start traveling, you start meeting other cultures, other ethnicities. Dealing with people is not easy. How do you cope, and how did you learn that, that there's a real need here, right?
Coping is an evolving thing. I play guitar, I work out. I mean, I tell people every day, the reason I am able to do my job is because I wake up at 5:30, I read, I pray, I journal, and then I go to my garage and do push-ups and sit-ups. If I don't do those things, that first 90 minutes of the day, I'm not successful. That day to me is a bad day, just because it didn't start with Bible and prayer and things like that. And so ultimately, nothing else matters. I mean, I play basketball, I play guitar, like to build stuff, but if it doesn't start with that in the morning, kind of nothing else falls into line.
That's so huge. So true. So true. You specifically created a space, an environment called the Clearfork Academy that caters and nurtures teens in dealing with all the problems: drug abuse, drug addictions, family issues, school problems. You created a space, an environment which is breathtaking and phenomenal and unique in the mental health space. What is it that you're seeing, that you saw, led you to build this community? That's what I want to call it. That's what comes to mind when I think of you and your incredible work. What did you see that started you to say, this is a need? I need to build this. Like, no, I look at you like Noah's Ark. I need to build the ark. Like,
yeah. So it really began at age of 15. I came to Christ and just felt this call to do ministry. I didn't know what that looked like. Had some guys in my local church who went to, it's called Lee University. It's in East Tennessee. So I did my undergrad in pastoral ministries, and kind of through that journey felt inadequate. So I finished the 4-year degree, and because I was working in a local church, doing all the things, that inadequacy kind of continued. And I'm also a nerd. So I went to seminary and started a master's in divinity program, got 80 hours into that. And as I'm doing my service and work in the local church, when a kid catches the house on fire, gets pregnant, runs away from home, gets in a fight, just fill in the blank of what adolescents are facing. We weren't opening Romans and exegeting and looking at Greek and all those things. And I was just asking questions. It was that 12-year-old sitting on the curb with the neighbor lady that was coming out. And so I went to my dean and said, hey, I think I want to take this professional counseling route. And that just grew. He kind of looked at me, eyes crossed, because I had like 6 hours left to finish the degree. Ended up getting a master's in counseling, and then started working in psych hospitals and case management, and ended up working in the inpatient adult treatment world. And there again was sort of that epiphany, because I'm sitting in a room with 30, 40, and 50-year-olds. And inevitably, John starts talking about his story. And I'm like, John, when did that happen? He's like, oh, when I was 14. And then instantly Bill gets engaged and he goes, wow, that happened to me when I was 15. And then Sam says the same, so the whole room now is reminiscing and digging through childhood stuff that had put them in that seat today. And so the light bulbs went off, and I was like, okay, what if these men could have a Clearfork at 14, and maybe now they didn't heal all the way, but they were on a different path that didn't lead them to treatment at 30 or 40 or 50. And so the goal was, can I combine my youth pastor calling and my clinical education and smash those things together so that we can get change early on in kids' lives, to where there's not that carnage behind them for 20, 30 years.
Facts. That's such facts. I recently, thank you for breaking that down so delicately.
Yeah.
I recently, and this was news to me. I recently was talking to a mental health professional, has their own practice, their own business, been in business for like 10, 15 years. And there's a lot of pushbacks from the parents to kind of say that, oh, what my child is dealing with is not real.
Yeah.
It's a one-off thing. So that child that burned down the school, oh, that's just him acting out. What?
Yeah.
So can you speak to, how do you handle cases where parents are in denial about their children's mental health issues?
That's funny, because I do admissions calls a lot of times, or early on, I did all of our admissions calls and literally had a kid with a firearm, scales, and drugs in the back of his car. And his mom goes, I just don't know. I don't think he's really, that bad right now. I'm like, Mom, like, he's running with gangs, he's selling drugs in your neighborhood. So we need to address that.
For sure.
So it's psychoeducation. It's building trust with the family to really kind of hold up a mirror to them, and just walk them through the signs and symptoms of really what is not teenage angst, right? Like, teenagers are going to have all kinds of stuff going on, but like substance use and severe mental health issues, those are abnormal situations that need intervention.
For sure. For sure. I need your help debunking this myth, right? This is a huge myth that people think that this is gonna go away, right?
Mm.
And so can you help debunk a myth with that? Is this real? Is it how booked up are you and your team as far as work and dealing with teenagers and helping teenagers get through, not even life, but just their early years? Is this true? Is it really serious?
So I'm torn. I'm a mental health provider, and I make my living off of uh, people's crisis, right? And we're not taking advantage of, but this is where I'm torn, is because I think if parents would toe the line with your kids, and they would take their devices away, and they would use these two letters that are super, super powerful, they would put them together. It's an N and it's an O, and they would say no. Kids would are naturally resilient. So part of me says, this isn't that big of a deal, because because we've been gifted by God to raise our kids. And I don't think people see that as a spiritual mantle or a right or a duty. And it's the education system, it's the church, it's everybody else's thing. So all of that, set all of that on the back burner right now. And I will tell you, we're in an epidemic, we're in a crisis, we're in a time where kids have no skills or ability to take care of themselves, and they need people like me and other professionals to help them, guide them through life.
So true. So true. That's thank you for that. That's so true. To continue, I saw this short clip on 60 Minutes about the state of our current mental health crisis. You guys watch this. Tune this in.
The U.S. Surgeon General has called it an urgent public health crisis, a devastating decline in the mental health of kids across the country. According to the CDC, the rates of suicide, self-harm, anxiety, and depression are up among adolescents.
Is there any group that's not being impacted?
No, we're seeing it all. Kids, who come from very well-off families, kids who don't, kids who are suburban, kids who are urban, kids who are rural. We're seeing it all.
This is 48 days, and for children, it's often longer.
What does it say to you that the place they have to come is the emergency room?
That there's something wrong with our system. The emergency room should not be the place to
I have a couple questions for you to answer on the iPad.
To manage the mental health crisis and heavy caseload, Dr. Pickett introduced an iPad with a series of questions that screen the mental health of every child 10 and older who comes to your family would be better off if you were dead. Harsh questions that can be lifesavers to the kids.
Your generation, got hit with this in what's supposed to be kind of a fun, carefree time. What was lost? What did you guys lose during the pandemic?
Myself.
Yourself. Kids are able to see their friends again and play sports, that this would all go away. Has it?
No, I've noticed that the wait lists are longer. Kids are struggling with more anxiety, more depression.
It was over 50 of them that just flooded my mind. I don't really know if it was from all the just antisocialness.
And so having the therapist in our clinic to really just be on a team together, discuss that patient and family together, to bounce ideas off of each other, because we both know them so well.
Find mental health resources for kids and families in crisis at 60minutesovertime.com.
Huge. Mr. Davis, this is he debunked the myth, y'all. He just debunked this myth that it's huge. It's bigger than we think, and we really need, as families, as parents. And he said it earlier, right? If you missed that, he said the biggest powerful tool that we can give our communities, our families, is that NO word. I remember growing up with, hearing that. And, my dad told me no all the time. My parents told me no all the time. And it reignited something in me, and it made me more creative, because I want those shoes. I want that car. I want that jewelry. I want to go to the prom. I want to go out with my friends. How powerful is that no? What do you see that how can that create impact with just those two simple words?
Well, I mean, we have a whole generation of kids, I don't think, who have ever heard it. We're in this depression time, but we're still the most affluent, and we have everything at the push of a button. It doesn't matter what socioeconomic status you are. We still have, the Burger King mentality, to your way, right away. And so when it's really an empowerment tool to tell kids, no. I've watched my kids. I have 3. My son is 12, and then I have 2 girls, 8.
Congrats.
And 10. Yeah, they're amazing. But it's the hardest thing for me to do, but it's also the most rewarding, because when I say, my son, we bought him a Nintendo or something, a couple years ago, and we have very strict boundaries on when they can play that. It's only on Saturdays. It's for 2 hours. But when those 2 hours up, hey, Dad, can we play more? Hey, Dad, can we do, hey, Dad, it's Tuesday. Can we play? No, we have boundaries to that. And then what they do after that is phenomenal. They go outside, they jump on the trampoline. I hear them laughing. I hear them giggling. They build stuff. They ruin the yard, but they're making memories that they would not have made. They're having physical touch and playtime and like all the good dopaminergic stuff that builds memories and builds relationships and just builds them into like adults, like healthy humans. And then Nintendo's not going to do that for them. So that
Facts.
word no is super, super powerful to me.
Facts. Hashtag mic drop. If I could give him a mic, y'all, another mic, not the one he's using. That is so significant. That is needed. It's powerful, y'all. Tell your kids no. You're not harming them.
No.
You're actually the opposite.
You're empowering them to take their life into their own hands instead of asking you to give them something to satiate their temporary moment.
I want to backtrack here on your and pick your brain. You touched on education is contributing to our kids' mental health. You also included social media. How is specifically social media affecting us? Because time after time we run into that mom, that dad that's like, okay, my kid's crying. Let me give him the laptop. Let me give him the tablet. Let me give him a cell phone. Let me give him that gaming system. How is social media and technology impacting our youth today?
Yeah, for one, I'm so glad I didn't grow up with a phone, right? And grow up well, I remember when the pager came out and we were awesome because we could send, coded messages. I really think it is probably the number one contributor to our kids' depression and anxiety, right? The FOMO, or the fear of missing out, um, the things that get posted and they get bullied, and man, it's just it is 100,000 times faster than we could ever communicate as kids. And it's out there forever. Like there's no erasing it. So I don't know the answer. We know all the statistics and how damaging it is and what it does to our psyche and our nervous system and the hangovers and the addiction component of it. It's huge, right? So I think it's really perpetuating and fueling all the stuff.
All the stuff. It's huge. Bigger. You heard it here first, y'all. Bigger than we could ever imagine. And the list is extensive. This is not a short list. This is huge. What's affecting our children is really big and it's really devastating. I'm on the website for Clearfork Academy. And when I tell you this website is very well done, but more importantly, it's very detailed and it links to the most important things that we need to be paying attention of. So for our audio listeners, we have the website clearforkacademy.com, and it touches on things that they help with because these are what our children actually facing: opioid treatment, depression treatment, anxiety treatment, trauma treatment, suicidal ideation. What out of all of these or some of these, what is the most common one that you're seeing?
Well, I think depression and anxiety are two sides of the same coin, and every kid comes in with those, right? Depression is kind of fear of what I did, and anxiety is kind of fear of what's in front of me. And so both of those things, every kid comes in and they're coping either with drugs or with self-harm. Those are the two ends of that mental health spectrum. But yeah, depression and anxiety, nobody knows how to self-regulate anymore. Again, I think going back to the devices and going back to just this dopamine saturation that we're always in. Yeah, I think that's it,
Absolutely. I want to shift gears here because you do something. This isn't just like some outreach program. This is actually people can actually send their children to Clearfork Academy and actually live on campus. Help me break that down, because that's unique. That's unique. It's actual like I don't want to say a vacation, right? Because that's not what it is. But I know as a kid, if I would almost. This place is beautiful, y'all. Again, for my audio listeners, this place is beautiful. I would almost fake some problems just so I could go. But tell us the great work that you do and the design of the building and how many students can you hold, or how many teenagers can you hold? All of that. Can you share some of those?
So right now, we have 90 teenagers in our programs, and we have 4 locations. We have a boys campus that was kind of our flagship. That's what we started with. We have 44 kids there now, I think. And so it's 37 acres. It's sitting in front of the lake. So it's a beautiful, serene environment. And so that's kind of our idea, is we want to be as clinical as hospitals, but also relational and have the feel of home and or a youth camp. And so that's kind of our idea and mentality. Was most treatments are kind of on that spectrum of, I'm in a 4 concrete walls of a hospital, or I'm in sort of a boarding school environment, kind of like a youth camp. So we kind of smashed the two together. We've got a girls campus probably an hour south in Cleburne, Texas. Just a kind of a petite version of what we have on our Fort Worth campus. And so between those two, we can have 80 teenagers at a time. And then we have 2 outpatient locations. And so our inpatient locations, they stay with us for 90 days. We have a curriculum that follows our core values and clinical interventions. And then our life skills kind of are the foundation of everything and it builds up from there. And then there are outpatients, they can walk in and do 5 days, 3 days, or single days worth of treatment with our clinical team.
Super, super powerful. I told y'all, impactful. This man is changing the world. Sir, I wanted to ask him, so are the students, first off, what's the process to enroll my son or daughter in the camp? Once they're in, what's happening with them in far as indoctrination into it?
Yeah. So the easiest way to get into the program is through our website, clearforkacademy.com. Top right-hand corner is a phone number that rings to our admissions and assessment team. And so they'll do a phone screening, make sure that, you're appropriate, we're appropriate, and ask all the right questions for safety and compliance kind of things. But then from there, I mean, we could do a same day admission if everything checks off and we get all the paperwork filled out. Then from there, we're really, we build on our core values every single day. And so we have 7 values: honor, unity, sacrifice, transparency, legacy, excellence, and fun. And those are the themes that drive every week. We are Christ-centered, but we use our values as sort of a neuter way to introduce faith, because I assume every single kid is mad at me, mad at their parents, and mad at whoever God is in their life. And so, a lot of our kids come to us agnostic or anywhere in the spectrum, right? And so we use our values really to engage them in a human way and show them what honor looks like. Hey, look, I'm going to honor you through this process. I'm going to build trust with you through transparency. And, when we say fun, we're just talking about enjoying the process. So I know I took your phone. I know I took your drugs. I know I took your girlfriend. I know, I took your freedom, right? And you're mad at me for that. But here's what I want you to try is enjoy that process. And we know that every situation can change by just a simple thought. And so we just challenge our kids to do that and say, hey, look, you're going to be here for 90 days. Let's get the most out of it.
Facts. Do I have to have insurance?
You do not have to. It can be pricey without it. We have, doctors, nurses, master's level clinicians, and 127 employees that like to feed their families. So
that's fair. That's honest. That's fair, right? So,
yeah. The cost of treatment, is about $1,000 a day without insurance.
That's fair, and that's fair. And again, these are top of the line professionals, and so they have to feed their families, y'all. But again, there's an option, right? There's financing options you can apply for, you can look into. It depends. To me, we make things are only expensive when you don't see the value in them.
100%.
So if I see my child with problems, what would you do, right? What mountain would you not climb in order to get them better? And
Well,
yeah.
and we treat it like, so I got 3 kids, right? If my son's climbing a tree and he's 20 feet in the air and he slips and falls and his arm snaps in half, and my new truck is sitting out in the driveway, right? I'm gonna go grab him, blood and all, put him in my leather seats, let him destroy the back seat, and we're going to the hospital as fast as we can. I don't care if I get a ticket because my kid's arm is snapped in half. If we thought about mental health that way, we wouldn't see this crisis the way we would. But we allow it. We're like, oh, he just slipped and fell, right? Oh, that'll heal up. Oh, it's not really, But if we looked at it and we saw and we were educated, on what the signs and symptoms look like, we would react differently.
Absolutely true. 1000% true. Absolutely. Again, another mic drop. Huge points. We have to make it important, y'all. We have to make it important. Just like the air we breathe. It's important. You can't see it, but it's there and it's real. It's necessary. What are your thoughts and what are your team's thoughts on the use of medications in treating teenage mental health problems?
Yeah, so I think medications are very important for a time. I go back and forth. I personally, very naturopathic and organic and things like that. I do think there's an element we use medications. We have doctors and nurses and all the things, but for a period of time. And my hope is that we can stabilize a kid, and then we can teach them skills to internally and organically stabilize themselves. I'm not a huge fan of long-term medication use. We can go into conspiracy theories on how big pharma has created this problem for us. You're right, and kind of talk about that for a while. But I do think that's a part of the problem is they make dollars as we get more sick. And do we really solve anything when we take medications? Sometimes, maybe not.
Yeah. I recently, and you're 100%, not to dive into conspiracy theories, but I recently saw a professional talking about sometimes we're medicating our children too early, right?
Oh,
That school, that principal, that nurse at the school is saying, "Oh, your child has ADHD. We need to medicate," and it's like sometimes it can be too early. Right?
Our brains aren't developed until we're 25 as men. And so if I grew up today, somebody would have put me on medication.
Yeah.
Right.
He's too hyper. He's too,
Yeah. He wants to stand up and walk around in class. He won't shut his mouth. But that's what makes me successful today. I mean, a lot of our kids have that entrepreneurial energy, and it's just been misguided or misstewarded. And it kind of goes back to that family unit for me. And there's no way in the world teachers should be suggesting medication for kids. They just want kids to drool on themselves so they don't, because they're not empowered, right? They're not empowered to tell that kid, no, sit down, be quiet, or they get in trouble. So it's that problem again for us.
Yeah, it's super full. It's they don't have the resources, right? They don't have access to the tools. Professionals like you and your team, they don't have access to resources. And then I think the second part is they're experiencing burnout, right? You got a teacher with a classroom full of 50 kids, and you got kids running over here, they're jumping out, one's swinging from the chandeliers, and it's like they're burned out, and they're like, if I could just get this classroom quiet.
Yeah, and my wife taught for 10 years. She has a master's in education. So you're preaching to the choir, and it was an uphill battle for her every day. And so, we're blessed that she gets to stay home and raise our 3 kids and do homeschool. So we don't have to deal with that. So she doesn't have to be afraid, really, because that could be a caustic environment for a teacher to go into that every single day,
That's so true. So true. I told you. Bring in the sauce. Mr. Davis here on the Gentleman Style Podcast Show. Speaking of preaching to the choir, we got to pay some bills.
Okay, go for it.
We will be right back. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Baby Gear Services DMV specializes in high-quality baby gear rentals in the Maryland and DC metro area. We have a wide range of baby gear items for rent, including wooden cribs, car seats, high chairs, and more. We also offer seasonal specials and free delivery. Our prices are very versatile to cover every budget. Wooden cribs start at $17 a day, high chairs and even car seats start at $5 a day. Check out our website, www.bgsdmv.com.
Support for Gentleman Style Podcast is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming champions of the world. Manscaped offers you precision engineering tools for your family jewels. Manscaped just launched their 4th-generation trimmer, the Lawnmower 4.0. You heard that right, the 4.0. Join over 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you. 20% off free worldwide shipping with the code GENSTYLE at manscaped.com.
Are you a local business looking to offer your customers easy access to cash without having to travel miles? We're here to help. At Norman Legacy Investments, we provide free ATMs with free installation that provide a suitable investment for your business. Even better, we offer you some profit sharing and handle everything from start to finish. Just reach out to us today to schedule a free consultation.
We are back to the Gentleman Style Podcast Show. And today I have the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Austin Davis here on the Gentleman Style Podcast Show, spilling the tea on how he's changing the world, one teenager, one boy, one girl at a time, and helping them get the tools. He talked about that earlier. The Clearfork Academy gives them the tools to help them cope with the stressors of everyday life. He talked about the different points and things that are contributing to the problems we're seeing in the mental health space with our teenagers, with our young girls, our young boys, whether it be education, social media, and prescription medication. If you missed any of that, go back, scroll back, check him out. He's absolutely phenomenal. We are on Apple, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Ghana Radio, radio.com, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and anywhere you get your podcast today. He is absolutely phenomenal. Sir, I want to address something because, you can't talk about mental health and you can't talk about your incredible academy without talking about there's a potential for relapsing, right? You can do all the great things. We can be as proactive as we want, but there's a potential for relapse. And so I want to ask you, how does Clearfork Academy address the potential for relapse in teens after they leave your program? What steps do you and your team take to deal with that?
The catchphrase for us is, discharge planning starts on day one. So you get in an airplane and it goes up and it has a destination. And at some point they say, stow your, all your things, and landing gear comes down. And that is a slow and gradual transition to the ground. And so when we think about our treatment stays, we want it to look a lot like that trajectory. And so that's huge for us, is having a good home plan, a good transition. And really that's why we created our 2 outpatient programs, is because what we saw was we have a kid for 90 days. We do family, we do groups, we do individual, we do all the good work, but then we send them right back home with very little resources. And so we created the 2 outpatients for that. And in theory, we could have a kid in services for 6 months with us with no problems. And that length of stay really abates the relapse potential. And so we go a step further with that. We have a whole alumni team that is working with our kids. And so they build rapport while they're in treatment with the families. We do a Tuesday night Zoom call with all of them. We do quarterly events. So we're always engaged with our kids, text message and on social, just trying to stay connected with them. Because when they are tempted or have potential relapse, we want to be right there to help support them and walk them through, and so that it could be just a bump in a road instead of full off into the ditch, and death, or that's the biggest consequence, right? So we stay engaged with the families, and we have our alumni team constantly just staying in connection.
This is after discharge. The team connects with them via text, say how you doing, wanted to reach out. Recently saw that y'all did an event at Six Flags, so that's powerful. That's including, that's people inside treatment and outside. That's included.
Yeah, that's once you're part of the Clearfork family, it's like Hotel California. You can't leave. So we just stay engaged, stay connected, and it's relationships, right? When the reason why we have mental health and substance abuse is because people aren't in healthy communities. If we had healthy communities, we had mentors, then we go, hey, dude, I'm struggling. And then somebody who loved us would say, what are you struggling with? Right. And we have that going back and forth of community and relationship. And that, to me, ultimately kind of solves our problem.
So true. So true. Absolutely necessary. And thank you for breaking that down. Right. Most times it's like, okay, I'm going to take your money. I'm going to take your insurance. We're going to get that copay and you're out the door. Right. They just, and hope for the best, right? Fingers crossed. Oh, and if you need me again, call me back and we'll get you on the schedule. And that's right. Not enough, right? You've done this great work and you negate the work because you just kind of leave them to their own devices. And if the environment doesn't change, right? Because what got you into that bad habit? What got you into the drugs? It's the community, right? Friends, maybe family, maybe, where you live. And so continuing that service is huge and it's major. And that's big, 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 big. So powerful. Sir, your team is incredible. And you have a heart as big as Mount Rushmore. But I got to ask the hard question. How do you and your team balance the need for discipline with the need for compassion in the treatment setting? Because that's a very hard line it's like knowing when to put that no and put the hammer in there, not physical, but just the hammer and be a little rough, and then but also be compassionate and have that heart for what they're dealing with. How do you balance that?
That's that spectrum kind of talked about. We would be as relational as a youth camp and clinical as a hospital. And so once we build relationships with our kids, we can say a lot of things that are pointed straight to their heart. I can look at a kid once he's told me his story about his abandonment and, about his broken heart or about his trauma, all of those things. I can look them square in the eye and say, look, John, you're acting out of your fear. You're acting out of your woundedness, and everything you're doing right now is not helping you get better. So stop it. And that, they're like, oh my God, nobody's ever talked to me that way. And it's because we've built relationship, because we have this connectivity with our kids each and every day. That being said, sometimes we don't have that. And we have a good old checks and balances or a level system. We know we're all driven by the scoreboard. And so we have points and rewards that our kids can grow. And when they grow and they, check the box, they get rewards, right? It could be going on the boat. It could be extra basketball time. It could be extended visitation or something like that. So it's both a checks and a balance, kind of the carrot and stick, and relationship, because everything we want to do, we want it to build on a therapeutic alliance and process, because we want to speak to the deeper issues of the heart, not just sit them down and make them be compliant.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And speaking about extending your stay, what's the minimum time you have out treatment? So there's that piece to Clearfork Academy, but the in treatment piece where they can stay on site. What's the minimum time that a teenager, boy or girl, can stay on site? And have you had any requests for extension? Hey, can we extend? Can we, this is working. And we're almost there. We're almost across the finish line. Can they stay a bit longer? Any opportunities there? Any things that are there?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we'll do is short of stay is, 4 to 7 days for a medical detox. Mom, dad come in, and they drop their kid off, just say, hey, we want him to be free of opiates. We want his head clear. And then we're going to go to do outpatient or something like that. So we'll do, an inpatient detox. Is it what we want, desire? Is it kind of our game plan or our roadmap? Absolutely not. We know at least 60 days of treatment is kind of to break the cycle, to engage them mentally, physically, and spiritually. And our hope is to get them to 90 days, because the first 30 days is just barely building trust and rapport. The middle 30 days is about understanding what needs to be on their treatment plan and addressing those things, like those deeper issues of the heart. And then once we've built trust and we've addressed the treatment plan, now we can put things into action. I just think about somebody's like really bad golf swing, right? Like you're correcting those maladaptive patterns of behavior in those last 30 days of treatment that really give you long-term care.
Super dope. Super dope. I wanted to ask a question. Are there any methods that sets Clearfork Academy apart from any other facility that's helping kids in the mental health space? Are there any things that you guys do that sets you apart from everyone else?
Yeah, there's probably 3 things. We're gender specific. And so we have 2 campuses that aren't attached to each other. We think that's very important, that boys can be boys and girls can be girls separately and autonomously. Then we have a family program that's standalone. A lot of people will combine or not even do family work. But we believe that as the family gets healthier, the kid's health is a byproduct of that. So we have a whole team of LMFTs and master's level clinicians that work specifically with the family to grow them in skills and grow them in insight. And we'll do 3 family intensives while they're in our program. And those are 2 to 3 days at a time of just immersive psychoeducation and process groups. So they get better. And we see that a lot of times. We teach them that word no, right, in the middle of those groups. And so when Johnny comes in for visitation and throws a fit, mom just looks at him and goes, hey, I just learned this. I'm going to use this word with you that I've never really used, and it's probably going to hurt. No, you can't talk to me that way. And if you continue, I'm going to get in the car and go home. And the kid's just like, okay. And mom did it well. Mom didn't do it sarcastically or passive aggressively. She was calm. Had good eye contact and did those things correctly. And that'll change a family's life. And then I think the third thing, it is our Christ-centeredness. We use the 12 steps and God our own understanding as part of that. But when we interpret that, man, I spent 8 years in doing Bible and theology. So it's like, I can't pull that thing out of the therapeutic process for us. And all of that is wrapped up. I guess there's a 4th one in there, right? Those are our 3 uniques. And then our 4th one is our curriculum. I wrote our curriculum after being a therapist for 15 years or so, and just seeing what works and what doesn't work. And so we put that into a scope and sequence for the 90 days. And so every kid kind of gets the recipe as they go through treatment, because we know the recipe works.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What do you consider a successful treatment? How do you measure success of your treatment programs at Clearfork Academy?
By rule, we measure 90% of goal completion on their treatment plan, right? So if they have 10 goals, we meet 9 of them. That is what we measure on a day-to-day basis. But the sort of subjective thing is really just a heart change. And I call it 1 degree, right? If we can get 1 degree, I think that's successful, because if we think about, there's 1 degree of change over time, right? If we're flying from here to London, right, and we're 1 degree off, whatever the math is, we're like in South Africa, right? It's over time, there's a distance. And if we can be that for a kid's life and to measure their success in just 1 degree, I think we've done our job. We have been the Clearfork. We've stood at the crossroads of their lives. We've shown them the ancient pathways. We've told them which way to go. And there's some rest. There's some aha moments. That's the sort of subjective way we measure success.
I just caught on to this. How did you come? Thank you for that. I just caught on to this. How did you come up with the name Clearfork?
Well, it's 3 ways. Number one, we live, in the Fort Worth area. There's Eagle Mountain Lake, and we have the Trinity River, the West Fork, and then the Clearfork River, or offshoot of that. And I'm a CBT therapist. So, there's these negative thoughts. And so I want to transition those negative thoughts and schemas and beliefs into positive things. So there's a transition. I say our brains are on the highway to hell. When you enter our facility, there's just no stopping you, right? And so there's got to be an exit ramp or a clear fork in the road. And then Jeremiah 6:16 just says, stand at the crossroads and look, ask where the ancient pathway is, ask where the good way is, walk in it, and you'll find rest for your soul. And that was God's command to his people when they were wayward. And so if it was good for them, I think it'd be good for us in sort of a treatment mentality to help our kids understand where they're going.
Shame on me for catching that way too late.
Yeah.
Incredible. Sir, that is phenomenal. And again, the work that you're doing, again, I've been truly excited because our kids are our future, right?
Absolutely.
The adults, we're kind of set, right? Adults are kind of set. But I think what you're doing with our kids is making a better future and a better tomorrow, because that's how you change the world. That's how you create the change that you want to see, because it's not the adults. But even though you do incorporate the family structure and the family dynamic, and I think you said it earlier, parents can come visit their kids, right?
Yep. Absolutely. We do visitation every weekend. They have phone calls and, FaceTime and things like that throughout the week, and then in-person visitation.
So you're not sending your child off to boot camp, even though some of these kids need that staff sergeant in their face, yelling at them and just showing, hey, your mom is working 3 jobs. She's killing herself, right? Trying to provide for you. So huge. Mr. Davis, how do you see the future of mental health treatment for teenagers evolving, whether it be technology space, and what do you see other practices doing? I know you attend conferences as a professional, you and your team attend. So what do you see coming down the pipeline?
Well, I think for the longest time, adult mental health treatment has been the primary thing. So when we started Clearfork, everybody, because I came from the adult world, everybody's like, dude, don't do it. Like, kids are nuts. They'll drive you crazy and this and that. I was like, yeah, all that's true, but it's got to be done. So I think we're sort of a pioneer in the space. And so people from the outside are going, okay, maybe if Austin can do it, then maybe we can do it. And so I think, and a lot of this is going to be private equity driven and big business. People are going to get into the space, and you've already seen it on the outpatient side, where all of these outpatient centers are just chocked full with patients, and a lot of them are adolescent focused. And so I think there will be sort of this surge of capitalists, trying to come into the market, and I think they have good intentions to serve the population, because there's a wait list. There's just a wait list of kids. I think the schools are going to catch on too. We've seen that sort of in our area, to where schools are building in better curriculum and having more resources in schools, and trying to abate that thing so they don't lose seat time.
For sure. And I know you have the outpatient portion to Clearfork, but if someone, and with the invention of telehealth, COVID reminded us that we have this option as well to treat our youth. But if someone was truly adamant about getting their child, and they're out of state, they're out of the Texas area, could they still fly in and
100%. We have 25% of our kids right now are from outside the state. We've had a kid from Puerto Rico who stayed with us for 6 months. You know, we had some Spanish speaking staff who we were like, I think we can make this work. You know, and we did. And so, yeah, there's no, don't have to be local at all. So only about 25% of our kids are from the local market. The rest of them are about 200 to, 500 miles away and then outside the state.
Do you do any work with immigration for kids and teenagers? Any work there with that?
No, not really.
That's fair.
We haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
But I think that will, yeah. When you go back to your other question, I think that'll be a huge thing coming up for the migrant population once they settle in and begin to receive services. We're going to see a huge spike in community-based need. And that's where, states and Medicaid, Medicare, we're going to have to really show up.
They're going to have to open up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Huge. Mr. Austin Davis, y'all. Incredible. Sir, this has been an incredible conversation. You are absolutely phenomenal. Clearfork and what you're doing and your team is changing the absolute world and the space in mental health. I appreciate it. Are there any questions that I should have asked you that you wanted to share that I missed? Anything that I missed? Anything there?
Man, I would just say to your listeners, don't wait. Like, don't wait. Give us a call. Give someone a call. Don't wait till your kid ends up in the ER with an overdose or a suicide attempt or something like that. Like, let's do intervention. Let's get it early. Our kids deserve it.
Absolutely. And how can people connect with you? How can people get on board? The train has already left the station, but it's not too late. Your child is not too late. It's not too late for them. How can people connect?
Yeah, clearforkacademy.com. That's the easiest way. All of our stuff is on there. You can find us on social. You can find me on LinkedIn and all the things. So
absolutely. Connect. Don't give up, y'all. Don't give up. Our children are not lost. They're not forsaken, right? Don't give up on them. If you give up on them, you're giving up on our future. And Mr. Austin Davis and his team are here to help. They're here to help. When I think of Clearfork Academy, I think what comes to mind is hope.
Yeah,
it's hope. It's hope. So, like we gotta let this man go. This man is incredible. We are out of time. Unfortunately, we gotta let him go. But I hope this message was impactful. I hope this was inspirational. I hope this helps you realize that there are options and there's hope in us for our kids, for our future, and it's not too late. Mr. Davis, I want to say this to you publicly. Don't ever quit. We need you. We need what you're doing.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. And thank you all for tuning into the Gentleman Style Podcast Show. Like we end every show, take care of your friends, take care of your family, and always take care of business. This is Marcus, your favorite gentleman, and the super fragilistic, expialidocious Mr. Austin Davis, Clearfork Academy, signing off. Love you guys.